podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on a Monday afternoon, because I was waiting to see if anything would happen with Zubimendi, and what we have is an article from Paul Joyce which says that Zubimendi would have to pay his own release clause at the La Liga offices in Madrid, which really does just seem like Real Sociedad accepting the fact that the player wants to leave and now having themselves a big old temper tantrum. However, I do note a thread from our own Mo Chatra, who says, so I spoke last week with someone involved in Spanish football. He told me that though buyout clauses are part of all contracts in Spanish and Portuguese football, it's part of the employment law. In reality, buyout clauses are very rarely exercised. The reason for this is because Spain's tax authorities can treat any funds transferred by Liverpool to Zubimendi, even if just for a few hours, as income. And this would then be liable for 47% tax charge. So the 51.5 million that we would have to give Zubimendi to then pay his release clause could increase to 75.7 million. Because remember, this is a release clause and not a buyout clause. So we don't pay the money to Real Sociedad. What we do is we pay the money to Zubimendi, who then buys himself out of his own contract, technically becomes a free agent, and is then free to sign with whoever he wants. We're yet to see the potentially hilarious circumstance where a club gives a player the money to buy themselves out of a contract and then signs for somebody else, because it would probably result in enormous lawsuits. But Mo is right when he says that these are rarely triggered. The last one I can remember being triggered was Neymar, when he went from Barcelona to Paris Saint-Germain. So that's summer 2017, which is 7 years ago. And obviously PSG, they don't care how much money is involved. So they were happy to give Neymar that money. He bought himself out of his Barcelona contract and signed for PSG. And the pettiness of PSG was magnificent, because they did this in retaliation to Barcelona trying to convince Marco Verratti to basically go on strike and force himself out of PSG and to Barcelona, because they thought, this guy could be our next Xavi. Let's go and get him. And PSG, well, went, you know what, we don't like the sounds of that, so what we're going to do is we're going to take away Neymar. Anyway, back to Mo's thread. In reality, the buying and selling clubs agree on a payment of the transfer fee by installments. The selling club, when the sale is made official, still often announce that the buyout clause has been activated. My interpretation of Paul's latest update is that Real and Liverpool have now reached agreement on the fee and its structure, and if and when the transaction goes ahead, Real will say that Zubimendi triggered the clause in order to save face with their fans. After the embarrassment of the Caicedo situation from a year ago, Liverpool wouldn't have briefed Paul Joyce, David Ornstein, etc. about the story last week if the player is not fully committed to joining the Reds. This doesn't mean the deal is done, but it looks to me like the last few days were spent negotiating the fee, as some reports had suggested, and an agreement has been reached. Now it's down to the PR spin to play out in the next few days. And my view has been that this last couple of days has been a bit of a face-saving exercise for Real Sociedad, because it's not just that they're selling Zubimendi or losing Zubimendi, they're also losing Mikel Moreno this summer. They also lost Robin Lemarchand, who went to Atletico Madrid. So you're talking about 3 vital starters leaving in one summer. And as with any fan base, if you lose, especially a club that, you know, does position themselves to try and challenge for the Copa del Rey, they won that a few years ago, tries to position themselves to challenge for a top 4 finish. They've done that in recent years. To lose 3 starters is just a massive blow. And with a player like Zubimendi, 51 million is well below what he's worth. Like, in a world in which Declan Rice was 105 million, Enzo Fernandez was 108, Caicedo was 116 or whatever it was, that is a bargain. Like, Romeo Lavia last summer went for 53 or 54 million plus add-ons. So to get a player like Zubimendi for 51.5 million is a bargain for the buying club. For the selling club, it's selling undervalued. And that's also something that their fans will likely have a gripe about. To sell 3 senior players in one summer and to not get market value, or what they'll view as market value, that is going to cause some upset among the fan base. Lenormand, not Lemarchand, Lenormand, Robin Lenormand. He went to Atletico Madrid this summer, I think, for about 24 million, which for a 27-year-old who was a starter for the team that just won the European Championships, that's undervalued as well. And Moreno's contract, remember, only has 1 year left to run, and Arsenal are trying to get him for somewhere in that 27 to 32 million pound range, which again is undervalued for a player of his quality. And Moreno, I think I'm right in saying, is 28, bang in the middle of his prime, just turned 28. So I do sort of feel like this will be about face saving for them. As I've said last week, there's no way they'd have launched this charm offensive if he hadn't turned around to them and said, look, I'm going to go. If he was saying to them, I want to stay, they wouldn't need to do all that. They wouldn't need to offer him a new contract. And by all accounts, the new contract they offered him was nowhere close to our original contract offer. And we have now tweaked our offer a little bit as well to just put an even bigger gap between what we're offering and what they're capable of offering. So my feeling is this one gets done in the next couple of days. There's reports out of Spain that we've basically set a deadline of Wednesday for this deal to be kind of wrapped up. Because obviously we want to have him in place, maybe not to start obviously against Ipswich at the weekend, but certainly to be in the squad or, you know, in and around the group for the day or two before the game. And then I assume he'll play in match week 2. We wouldn't still be working on this deal if we didn't think it was going to happen. Now, some people are taking some of the wording in Paul Joyce's article to mean that certain circumstances had changed. Like when he says that Liverpool were certain that he was going to join or were led to believe or whatever it was, he's not saying that's changed. He's just saying that at the time, this is the information that he has and it's being worded a certain way. I think this deal gets done. I think if it doesn't, we will immediately pivot somewhere else and probably pay a release clause for someone like Alan Varela and just pay it and be done with it. And Porto would be easier to deal with than Real Sociedad anyway, especially for us having a good relationship with them. And I think Varela is a much easier get than Zubimendi because he doesn't have that track record with the club. He doesn't have that extended history with Porto. He's only been there 1 year, whereas obviously Zubimendi has been with Sociedad since he was 12 or 11 or something. And like the people that, it's funny to me, the people that are criticizing him because reports say he's taking his time to make decisions, they're the same people that would be absolutely up in arms if Trent just decided tomorrow that he wanted to leave. These are the people that look at Steven Gerrard and think, oh, it's amazing that he turned down Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Chelsea, etc., to stay with us when we were largely garbage, and ignore the fact that it's the same pull for Zubimendi. Like, he's from San Sebastian. He grew up there. His family, his friends, everything he knows is in that city. In the same way it was for Gerrard, it is for Trent. And criticising his mentality for not wanting to leave that while lauding Gerrard for doing the same is just bizarre. I mean, if you wanted to be really ruthless about Steven Gerrard, you could say, well, he lacked ambition. That's why he didn't move on and go and win elsewhere. But the reality of it is, he looked at the circumstance and thought, winning anything with Liverpool will mean more to me in my life for the person that I am than going and winning 5 times or 10 times more with Chelsea or Real or Bayern. It's the same thing for Zubimendi. Like, winning that Copa del Rey a couple of years ago will be everything for him. That will mean more for him. And it will mean more for the fans that watch that happen and the connection that they have than, let's just say, Vinicius Jr. winning multiple Champions Leagues for Real Madrid over the last couple of years and multiple league titles. Because Vinicius is at a club where you expect to win every year. And Real Madrid's fans expect to win every year. Like, if you're at Real Madrid, you can win the league title, go out early in the Champions League, and the season can be seen as a failure. Second is unforgivable for them. There was calls for Ancelotti to get fired after the 22-23 season, despite the fact he'd won the European Cup and the league title in 2022 at the end of 21-22. 1 year of not winning, they wanted him gone. They've sacked managers who've won league titles. Capello won the league title twice and got sacked immediately because he didn't win in Europe. They're just a different breed of club. We've seen Chelsea sack Champions League winning managers, league winning managers within a year or two of winning those trophies. Because those clubs, they operate differently. Now, with Real, it's because they're the biggest club in the world, the most successful team in the world, and they're on a plane all to themselves. With Chelsea, it's just because Roman thought he could build Real Madrid. And he thought nobody would notice the cheating and the plasticness of it all. It's the same with City. Like, nobody cares about winning medals with City. Like, for Jack Grealish, the promotion he won with Villa, bringing Villa back to the Premier League, the fans at Villa would appreciate that more than the fans of City appreciated, say, the league titles that Grealish has won. Now, the European Cup was different because it was their first time. But if we look at it as neutrals to the whole thing, nobody really cared that City won a treble. Like, when United won a treble, we were all miserable because it was them. But we were all also in awe of what they'd just done and the way that they did it. When City did it, everybody just sort of went, meh, shrugged their shoulders and moved on. Because nobody cares, because everybody knows that they cheat. Everybody knows that they're plastic, and let's be honest, they win every fucking year. with a club like Real Sociedad, with Liverpool, when we were where we were in the 2000s, the early part of the 2010s, any success was just incredible. Like, we almost forgave the fact that Kenny did a horrendous job because he won us a League Cup. A League Cup. We were delighted with ourselves because times were so dark. So for Zubimendi, the fans worship him the same way we worship Gerrard. And that Copa del Rey that he won with them is every bit as important to them as a football club as Istanbul is for us. Like, it's not on a global scheme, or global scale, but when you look at it just through the eyes of that club, it was an incredible moment for them. It was the first time they'd won the competition since 87. The first time they'd won anything since 87. They'd won 2 league titles and 3 Copa del Reys in their history. And one of those Copa del Reys was in 1909. They also won the Supercopa in Spain. They had a golden era in the 80s where they won 2 league titles in 81 and 82, the Supercopa in 82, and then they won the Copa del Rey in 87. And that's kind of it for their history. So any fan born 88 and after, actually, am I wrong? Did Zubimendi even... He did, didn't he? Because it was cancelled for COVID. So I'm almost certain he played in the final, even though he wasn't really... he wasn't a first-team regular the season that cup is for, but he was... They got delayed a year, and he was a regular by the time that it came around, because Odegaard was in the team that got to the final, but was gone by the time the final was played. And that's the only cup Martin Odegaard can lay any claim to. Any medal the guy has, he wasn't at the club when they won, which is just funny. But anyway, like, any fan who's 35 or younger, the only trophy they've ever seen their team win is this one. Like, if you're a 35-year-old Liverpool fan, while you may not have great memories of some of these things because you were, a toddler, you've been alive for multiple league titles. You've been alive, obviously, for 2 European Cups in the last 19 years. You've seen us win the UEFA Cup. You've seen us win multiple FA Cups, multiple League Cups. So you would have seen, let's say you were born in 88.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday. And you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with Multiview, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action. Make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
2 league titles, 90 and 2010, or 2020. 5 FA Cups, 89, 92, 01, 06, and 22. So even though you wouldn't remember, say, the first... You might remember the 92 one, you're not remembering the 89 one. But you'll definitely remember 01, 06, and 2022. And then with the League Cup, 95, 01, 03, 12, 22, and 24. And then, like I say, the 2 Champions Leagues, 05 and 19, the UEFA Cup in 01, the European Super Cup in 01, 05, and 19, the World Club Cup in 19. Like, they've had 1 trophy in their lifetimes if they're 36 and under. That means so much more. The same with Bilbao. And they're clubs that operate in a budget that's not a whole lot bigger than, say, Brighton. Very smaller than Brighton. Like, Brighton have gone out and spent 30 million on multiple players this summer and are probably going to do it again because it looks like they're going to get that Turkish fullback in. So, you know, Real Sociedad are a big name in Spain, but in terms of budget, they're operating on a budget about the size probably of Ipswich. And I guarantee Ipswich manager earns more, and Ipswich will have a higher net spend this summer. Like, for a club like that to win a trophy, and for the player to come through the academy, grow up immersed in that club, immersed in that city, hearing the stories of those glory days. He was born 12 years after their last trophy. And all he would have heard is about that, you know, not winning anything. The hopes, the dreams of getting back to winning something. So when they do win and he sees the outpouring of support and he sees what it means and the whole city comes out to celebrate, like, that type of thing means an incredible amount. It's also funny to me that a lot of people that are criticizing him and claiming he's got a weak mentality are the same people clamoring for us to sign an average player who's crying about being homesick 175 miles from home. On to This Is Anfield. 37 Reds and defender makes his mark. Liverpool's pre-season in numbers. We'll have a look at this. Obviously, we played 2 games yesterday, so we've got 20 things to learn from Liverpool's 2 friendlies in one day. Best 11 hint, Gravel's the number 6. I understand people got a little bit excited because he had played a couple of decent passes. Did you see the goal that they scored against us, where he shit himself in a tackle? That's kind of important for a defensive midfielder, to not soil themselves in a tackle. 37 Reds. Right, let's have a look. Right, games played 5, games won 4, 1 draw, 0 losses, scored 10, conceded only 2. 37 players played. Most minutes, Gerald Kwanzaa, Costa Simicas, Harvey Elliott, and Mohamed Salah. Most goals, Diaz got 2 yesterday. Obviously, Carvalho had gotten 2. Elliott, Salah, and Jota with 2 assists each. Tyler Morton made the most appearances, which is a bit surprising, considering he's likely going to leave. 4 appearances for Queven Kelleher, Nat Phillips, Gerald Kwanzaa, Costa Simicas, Connor Bradley, Lucas Stevenson, Stefan Basetic, Wataru Endo, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Trey Nioni, Ben Doak, Harvey Blair, and Mo Salah. 3 for Yaros, Vandenberg, Szoboszlai, Carvalho, and Jota. 2 for Ibu, Nallo, Beck, Chambers, and Gravenberg, and 1 each for Virgil, Allison, Joe, Trent, Robbo, Scanlon, Alexis, Kumas, Kate Gordon, Diaz, Gakpo, and Nunez. Now, what else is doing this? Okay. Most chances created, Harvey. Most duels won, Curtis Jones. Most touches, Kwanzaa. Most passes into the final third, Elliott. But second on that list is Kwanzaa. Most touches in the opposition box, Salah. But third on the list is Connor Bradley. 20 things we learned from Liverpool's 2 friendlies in one day. Arne Slot sees Trent as a right back, which is absolutely wonderful. Diogo Jota is the ideal forward for Slot. Nunez isn't yet. Jota's goal yesterday, there's a Robbie Fowler goal that's very similar, isn't it? I'm having to imagine that. There's a Robbie Fowler goal from back in the day that's a similar type of volley. It was an absolute peach of a goal. What a ball by Trent as well. Look, people want Darwin to fail. There's no denying that at this point. They want reasons to criticise him. Yesterday, he had he had a rough game at times, but there was a couple of good moments. But the moment that people are criticising, he picks the ball up, he beats a man, and he starts to drive, and there is a ball to the right. There absolutely is a ball to the right. I think it's Connor Bradley. Instead, he drives and he gives it to Gakpo. And people want to criticise him, but just because Bradley had a bit of space doesn't mean anything would have come from it. It's not necessarily that he denied us a goal. Yes, he should have picked the right option. It was also his first game back since the Copa America. Let's just all fucking settle down a little bit. Luis Diaz could prosper with slots, use of wingers. I don't really know. I mean, he scored twice yesterday, obviously. But neither of them came from being on the wing. He was very central for the first one, and then came very central for the second one. In play, in general play, he doesn't really suit that well. Like, Cody would suit better. Cody looked really rusty yesterday. I still think there's a chance Szoboszlai gets minutes there. Quansah clearly first choice alongside Van Dijk. Yeah, I mean, until Ibu's up to full speed, definitely. Gravenberch the 6 until a signing is made. Slot said he was happy with Gravenberch's performance in the game against United, and he continued in the role versus Villa. It could well be his role. It just won't be. It just won't be. The midfield is more of a double pivot than a holding midfielder. That's quite obvious. We know the 11 versus Ipswich. Well, this is based on the 11 that started yesterday. They're just assuming that we'll play the same. It is possible. It is possible. Seth Vandenberg on the brink of a move away. An unused sub versus Las Palmas. Slot claimed that Vandenberg was not used due to managing playing time, but that seems highly unlikely, and it's far more likely he's heading for the exit this week. It could well be. It could well be that he's heading for the exit this week. Looks like Bobby Clark is as well to Salzburg, and Ben Doak potentially leaving on a permanent deal. A lot of crying over these things. I'm not sure why. These are players that are not nearly good enough to play for us at this point. Very clearly multiple years away from being good enough to play for us. So why keep them around? Like, people say, oh, we should just loan them. Yeah, but they're not going to be good enough in a year either. Like, they're not going to go and have this enormous leap in 1 year. They're going to go and have gradual progression. They might take a sizable leap, but it still won't make them good enough. So they're going to then need a second loan, probably to a different club. It makes more sense to sell them, because remember as well, a lot of players don't develop on loan because clubs give up on players that they've loaned in far quicker than they will give up on a player they've bought. Clubs also aren't necessarily overly keen to develop players for other clubs. But if you sell them, then they'll go full bore. So it makes far more sense to sell Clark, sell Doak, sell McConnell, whoever else, with buyback clauses, with sell-on clauses. And then if they, in 2-3 years, have made that leap, then you go and buy them back. But you ensure that the buyback clause is favourable to us. And if it's a case that they do develop well, but just not well enough, they might still get a good move at a decent price. And you make money on a sell-on clause. The era of sentimentality needs to go. The era of, well, we have to keep everybody around and have far too many players knocking around the place needs to go. We've had far too many players contracted to the club in recent years, and all this shit about small squads was never true. Never true. There was too many players involved in first team training, and you could see that team looked really badly coached for the last couple of seasons. So cutting the squad down is vital. Upping the quality, upping the number of players good enough is needed. But to do that, you need to trim away the players that aren't good enough and are just taking up space and money at this point. And hopefully they'll go, develop well, become high-level players, and we can buy them back at affordable prices, and that's all very good. And if not, hopefully they go develop, get sold on elsewhere, and we make more money off them. And the whole purpose of buying these players is to sell them. It's very rare you're going to buy a player at 16, 17, 18 for £1 million and have them become a first-team player. Far more likely is you buy them, develop them to become a decent squad player for our level, and then sell them for 10, 12, 15 million to a club that's less than us. We don't miss COVID football. Yeah, grim watching games with no fans in the stands. Slot is setting high standards. There's a lot of good things, but I can make a big list of things we have to improve, which is really good. Trainiani is some talent. Patient football will get some getting used to. It's amazing to me, though, there's people who are watching these games and then giving analysis that is completely contrary to what they've just watched. Genuine. Completely contrary to what they've just watched. McConnell and Cade to leave the club. Looks like Cade will be alone. McConnell, I think, is going to be a permanent deal. And again, that's fine. Just put the protections in place, get a decent fee for him, and move on. The pressing is still vital. Press, Harvey, press was the shout from the sidelines. The long ball might not be the right ball. Yep, he doesn't like long passes. So there will be far less of them than there was under Jurgen. Underlapping runs from fullbacks will be a feature. We talked about that before. And up, back, and through is a pattern you'll see. So that's the keeper picking out one of the forwards, the knock back onto someone running through, and then, either a finish or a layoff. We saw with the Salah goal against United, up to Jota, back to Harvey. Was it United or was it Arsenal? Anyway, slide through, mow onto it, and away he goes. And then in this one, up to Salah, laid off to Jota, Dominic running through, and he laid it off for Diaz. Square passes for tap-ins, absolutely. Wichuruendo is a squad player. That's fine. He was only ever going to be a squad player. He did fine yesterday, though. He was absolutely fine against Los Palmas. Zubimendi would look perfect in a slot midfield. You thought we'd get through this without benching him. Yeah, he is absolutely ideal for it. Not quite as ideal as Varela would have been, but that's fine. That's fine. What else is there here? Yeah, there's nothing else. Oh, Virgil had some comments about how, he hasn't been offered his contract yet. He's hopeful the club makes signings. He trusts the club to make them signings. Virgil's going to get done and stay, so don't be stressing yourself about anything. Lots of soiled underpants last night on social media when those comments are made. On to Dave O.C. Cock. Championship sides enter loan race for Owen Beck as Scottish Giants look for permanent move. This is the latest, so we'll get a look there. There's a piece about Mo. What else does he have up? He's got his exclusive that Stefan Bajcetic has been told he can leave on loan, which I think, again, is good. I think it gets him out, gets him playing. He needs a carefully regimented season that wouldn't work for us, but will work maybe somewhere else. He's also not nearly good enough at this point to be playing regularly for us, so better to let him go somewhere else and play regularly to semi-regularly. Both Celtic and Rangers have an interest in the left back, with Celtic particularly keen. Yeah, I mean, Celtic want him on a permanent move. I don't see any reason not to move him on. At the end of the day, he's 22. At this point in his career, he's not close to being good enough to play for us, but he is a good player. And he's more than capable of going and playing in Scotland, where he proved himself last year. I think he'd do very well in the Championship, which is generally a step up from the Scottish Premiership. Though obviously at Rangers and Celtic, you do factor in European football and such as well. That's all from Dave. We'll go to Anfield Watch. McGuire, have you been writing anything? I will check it out in the index as well while we're here. On Anfield Watch, there is a piece about a supercomputer, so we'll have a look at that. Jurgen Klopp could still be about to make millions for Liverpool this summer. Liverpool set deadline on Martin Zubimendi. This is the suggestion that we've set a Wednesday deadline. There's a piece about Carvalho. 5 things spotted during Liverpool's board draw. Was a pretty boring game. Against Las Palmas, to be fair. But it was just about fitness, really, so that's fine. Supercomputer predicts... Let's see. Opta's supercomputer is predicting us to finish third. City, obviously favourites to win the league. Arsenal predicted to finish second. So it's 40.2% chance we finish third. A 29.6% chance we finish second. A 5.1% chance we win the league. And then an 11% chance we finish outside the top 4. So the remainder then is that we finish fourth. Again, I think the floor for this team is third. AnfieldIndex.com. There is a piece about Zubimendi. There is a piece about a bid being considered at the moment for Bobby Clark. It's a piece about Owen Beck. There is foolishness about Gravenberch being the number 6. Panenka LFC. No idea who that is, but dear oh dear, what a shocker. It's a YouTube. It's a YouTube page. Drivel. Over Drivel. Former Liverpool star hails fantastic Arnest slot ahead of Premier League opener. Oh, Marcus Babbel. Marcus Babbel has been full of praise. I did see that. Podcast-wise, there is the latest Scouted, which is the second part of our Premier League preview. And there is the New Media Matters, which is Dave Davis and David Lynch. There was also a Scouser Tommy's released over the weekend. If you haven't heard it, give it a listen. And I will see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.